See that? How many people saw it? How many people recognized it? How many people marked it on their screens? How many people even knew about it? Well, if you didn't, pretty poor form, right? Pretty poor form, because it is a very important dealer's level. Pretty important dealer's level. It's in your tweets every night, guys. It's in your tweets every night. I'm not bullish at high prices, and I'm certainly not bearish at low prices at the moment. I'm quite happy just to watch this rotate round. Obviously, we've got a fundamental reason to buy it. We've got a couple of technical reasons to sell it. The retail sales has obviously put the spanner in the works. I'm certainly not a seller of low prices. I think that's just preposterously bad. I'm a buyer of low prices, and I'm a closer out of top edges, right? So I am a net buyer of equities, that's for sure. I'm certainly not going to be starting to jump on the short sell no time soon. I am a buyer and only a buyer, as you know, and I'm making a fortune on this at the moment, just because we've had a lot of rotations, not because we've had any particularly big swings. So, so for me, it's been an absolute walk in the park. I like when markets look like this because we make a lot of money on these types of markets. And we just keep buying at dips and buying on dips and buying on dips. And as I said, we've made a fortune on this morning. Now, there's a couple of challenges. What are the challenges today? Well, let's take a look through the challenges so far. First of all, interest rates are very much in our favor. Against us, of course, is the market internals for something like the NASDAQ. We can see that, sorry, not that's the wrong one. We'll take it down. I'll have to take it down into a lower time frame, guys, just so that we've got some data to analyze. Okay, so now we can look at this narrative. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the volatility. First of all, SPY VIX. You'll see that the SPY VIX has been pretty bearish on upticks, hasn't it? There hasn't really been any reason to buy into these high prints at the moment. Do you agree with that? So you can see that from the gun here, as soon as we made that high, there was no real reason to buy into this, and there was a nice easy money exit into that high. Another easy money exit into the high, and it's another pretty easy money trade into the highs at the moment, just to bag and tag some of this loveliness. So we've been able to do that, and obviously that's why we're buying at lower prints, lower prints, lower prints. Each time it makes a lower print. As you know, we've been buying into these because I've shown you screenshots of just about all of them so far, and we've been buying into these lower prints, but we know there's no opportunity for me to buy the higher prints. Yeah. No opportunity for me to buy the higher prints. So is there an opportunity to sell these higher prints? No. Why? Well, look at the advanced decliners so far on the NASDAQ. The market internals are actually relatively strong for things like the NASDAQ today, aren't they? See that? So the one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to sell higher prices. I don't want to, buy higher prices, but I don't want to sell lower prices either. Now that's okay. That means that there's a perfectly valid reason to buy the bottom edge, and there's a perfectly valid reason to sell some top edges as well. In other words, it's basically a rotational market. There isn't a correct side to be on. Do you agree with that? Yes or no? At the moment, there isn't a correct side to be on. There's just whatever side you prefer. So if you want to go buy side and sell side, go buy side and sell side. If you want to go sell side, go sell side. The point is, there isn't a correct side. So what you're really trying to do is you're trying to build a case. Now, with market internals as strong as this, I don't think we're going to see a break lower. I don't think we're going to see a break lower. That's why I'm more likely to be bullish, because I would need to see some market internals telling us this market was very, very bearish. When we look at some of the rotations, of course, and we start asking the question, well, what about things like the use of utilities? Would you be a seller or a buyer today on equities? Seller or a buyer on equities, guys? What's the big trade, would you imagine? You're a buyer, right? You're a buyer. You're a big, massive buyer. What is this line? SPY utilities, SPY utilities, SPY utilities. We know that when the SPY is bullish against the utility sector, we should be able to make some money on the upside. So that's exactly what we've been doing. And you can see why the price has just rotated, because we just dropped the value there, and that gave you a nice easy money rotation back off the prior swing high. It's pretty simple stuff, guys. And this is exactly what I've just said. You can be a buyer of these bottom edges, But you can also be a seller of the top edges. There is no correct side this morning. There's only the correct price this morning. Agreed? There's no such thing as the correct side. There is such a thing as the correct price. In other words, I ain't buying highs and I ain't selling lows. So that's as simple as it gets. I ain't buying highs and I ain't selling lows. Anyhow, sweep top edge oil could be nice. Let's take a look, see if it gives us a bit of a sweep top edge. We've got an offer watch on this oil, so we are working it when we get an opportunity to work it. So that's something we're watching very, very carefully. The reason why I'm not jumping for joy on this one is because we've already had one big trapped buyer. Market makers trying to do a pump and dump at the top edge at the trades. Can you all recognize that from an oil trade perspective, everybody? Market makers trying to do a pump and dump at the top edge here. And we've had the first big one, which was this big offer here that came in off the 8230s. That was a beauty. That was an absolute no-brainer sell. But the market maker is now trying to drag those scallywags off the bottom edges here, and we're trying to get them jammed up into the top edge for this pump and dump. So I'm thinking 82.35, 82.50 area for a bit of sell side opportunity up here. Some buyers just came in. We've got our first little sell against them. I'm taking a little bit of money just so that I'm not going to get trapped myself. And I've taken some money and I've just put my quick stops into break even. And that was a typical traditional little attempt at a pump and dump. We have been scratched before. I could take a screenshot there, guys. We did get scratched on the trade at +1 in the remainder. So that was a little bit of a pity, but I'm liking the setup here for the pump and dump off that 82.35 print. So we started to work into that 82.35 print there. We managed to get some business done. We managed to take some profits. We put our stops at break even. It spiked back up and we'd got taken out at +1 in the remainder of our position. And we are now actively working this trade if we can get a little bit of activity on it on upticks. We get a little bit of activity on upticks. Now, I'd love to bring that seller into this trade because that seller that's jammed on this trade at the moment, they obviously haven't puked. So there's a big seller that came in off the 30s. They kept selling really hard at the 25s, 24, 23, 22s. They got down to a low price of 10s, but they didn't clear the books. So they're still in it. So I'd still like to see this going one last attempt higher. I am still short. I am working the short sales against that seller. And we are obviously making some pretty easy cash. I did take another screenshot. I'll show you obviously the storyline that's evolved around this trade so far. Relatively straightforward, relatively straight out of a business plan narrative and order flow. You can see if you agree with me. Now the idea is when you're listening to me, you understand exactly and you can see exactly what's happening because it's important, isn't it? This idea that, you know, it's not just me that can see it. You can see all of these elements yourself. So can you spot the sells? Can you spot the sells? It's important, isn't it? Can you spot the sells? Well, the first sell was obviously this big lean here, wasn't it? That was the most obvious sell right there. You can see the book started to slowly diverge off of that trade there. You can see the book started to diverge. The delta got jammed into that trade, which is all these massive buy orders. The sell came in. We managed to get a little sweep down a little bit from that trade. Managed to get down a few ticks into the bottom edges. Now, the sellers never puked. So you can see the seller stayed connected to that trade pretty much entirely right through that trade. And obviously they're now trapped on that sell. So my idea is, well, if they're that busy trying to be selling it, there's probably a very high probability that you're going to run a sweep. So as you start to run the sweep, the first thing I'm going to look for is a buyer coming in and puking just in there. So as soon as I got that guy coming in, I started to work the offer back into that trade. And obviously because of that, I was able to get a quick sell. We went from basically 28s to around about, what, 12s, 13s? 15 ticks profit on the trade. We got down to 12s, 13s, prior swing low, of course, and they still never puked. So what I'm still thinking is this is obviously what we call a pump and dump. So I'm thinking that there's a very good chance they're trying to get these guys to buy into a higher price. The way that the book's forming just now, they're trying to get the buyers to come into a higher price. That would suggest to me that they're looking at $82.50 for the sell to really kick off in here. And, well, we just have to, we can't wait for $82.50. It might never happen. But that certainly seems to be what they're trying to achieve from this current market make. And for that reason, if it goes, then delighted. We'll take advantage at $82.50 instead, right? If it doesn't go, delighted, because we're still in it short. So it doesn't make any difference which one it is. Doesn't make any difference which one it is. We can obviously try and take advantage. Now, you can see there's a reason why we don't want to resell it just now. The book is now bullish and still bullish. However, the value has now adjusted with the blue line making a lower low against a red line that's also dropping. So from this idea here, my thoughts are now that that is now going to make the play towards the 50s. And as it goes and makes its play towards 50, we don't know how this is going to form. It looks like that'll probably eventually evolve into that type of storyline at the moment. Would that make sense? Sure. Very straightforward stuff, isn't it, guys? Very straightforward.